5 bizarre alternate reality horror stories that will haunt you. Join me as I dive into 5 bizarre alternate reality horror stories and see if I can make it through without getting too freaked out. In the vast expanse of the multiverse, every possibility plays out in a reality all its own. But what if those realities weren't always so different from our own? What if the familiar tales we think we know took a dark and sinister turn? Today, we're going to explore 5 spine-tingling stories that will leave you questioning the very fabric of reality. Story 1: The Whispering Walls. I always thought my house had a soul, a spirit that watched over me. It was an old Victorian with creaky floors and windows that rattled in the wind. But it wasn't until the walls started whispering that I began to understand the truth. It began one chilly October evening as I sat reading in the dim light of my living room. The whispers were faint at first, like the rustling of leaves, but soon they grew louder, insistent, forming words that sent shivers down my spine. "Help! Trap! Free us!" I thought I was losing my mind. I was a writer, after all, prone to flights of imagination. But the whispers didn't stop. They became my constant companions, echoing through the house day and night. Driven by curiosity and fear, I started tearing down the wallpaper, uncovering layers of old photographs glued to the plaster. Faces stared back at me, eyes wide with terror. They were the souls trapped within the walls, victims of a man who lived here before me, a man known for his dark rituals. I couldn't leave them there, those souls begging for freedom. I spent nights tearing down walls, releasing their anguished spirits one by one. Each release felt like a piece of my sanity slipping away. But I knew I had to finish what I started. On the final night, I stood in front of the last wall, hammer in hand, heart pounding in my chest. As I struck the wall, a cacophony of screams erupted, and the house shook violently. I fell to my knees, and everything went black. I awoke to silence. The house was different, lighter, almost peaceful. The whispers were gone. I knew the souls were free. But as I looked around, I realized I had become part of the house, its new guardian, bound to its walls, forever listening to the echoes of the past. The end. Story 2: The Mirror's Curse. They say mirrors reflect the soul. I never believed that until the day my mirror started showing me a different reality. It was an ordinary antique mirror, a relic I picked up at a flea market, drawn to its intricate frame and the way it seemed to glint in the sunlight. The first time it happened, I was brushing my teeth. I glanced up, and there it was, my reflection, but with eyes filled with fear, a silent scream on its lips. I stumbled back, but when I looked again, everything was normal. It became a nightly occurrence. Each time the reflection grew more desperate, reaching out, trying to warn me of something unseen. I tried to ignore it, convince myself it was just stress or fatigue. But deep down, I knew there was something sinister at play. One night, I decided to confront it. I stood before the mirror, staring into my own terrified eyes. "What do you want?" I whispered. As if in response, the reflection changed, revealing a world on fire, shadows lurking, figures writhing in agony. Then I saw it, myself, trapped in that hellish landscape, pleading for escape. I understood then. The mirror was a gateway, a curse passed down through generations. And now, it wanted me to take my place on the other side. I smashed it, shards scattering across the floor. But as I turned away, I caught sight of something in the broken pieces. A glimpse of myself, still trapped, still screaming for help. The mirror's curse was unbroken, and I knew it was only a matter of time before it claimed me. The end. This next story is truly terrifying, but before I tell you the next story, please take a moment to like and share this video with friends. And if you want to see more stories like this, please consider subscribing to this channel. It does help us out. Story 3: The Clockwork Town. I moved to the small town of Gearsley for a fresh start. It was quaint, almost idyllic, with clock towers that chimed every hour and gears that seemed to turn without end. But it wasn't long before I noticed something off. The townsfolk moved with mechanical precision, their smiles too perfect, their eyes too vacant. It was like watching puppets on strings, each action calculated and precise. I tried to blend in, but I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, of being an outsider in a town that didn't welcome change. One night, I followed the sound of ticking to the abandoned factory at the town's edge. Inside, I found a massive clockwork mechanism, its gears turning with hypnotic rhythm. And there, at its center, was the town's secret, a machine that controlled everything, everyone. It was alive, pulsating with an energy that felt both ancient and malevolent. I realized then that Gearsley was more than a town. It was a living entity, a clockwork organism that fed off the lives of its residents, keeping them in perpetual motion. I tried to leave, but the town wouldn't let me go. The roads twisted back on themselves, leading me in circles. The townsfolk, once friendly, now stared with hollow eyes, their smiles chilling in their uniformity. I'm writing this in hopes that someone, anyone, will find it. Gearsley is a trap, a clockwork nightmare that ensnares all who enter. And I fear that soon, I will become just another cog in its relentless machine. Story 4. The Shadow's Embrace. I always loved the dark. It was comforting, a blanket that wrapped around me in times of distress. But that changed when the shadows began to whisper my name. It started as a subtle murmur, a gentle caress against my ear. But soon, it became a siren's call, drawing me deeper into the darkness. I felt the shadows reaching for me, their tendrils cold and inviting, promising secrets beyond imagination. I resisted at first, telling myself it was just my mind playing tricks. But the shadows were persistent, showing me glimpses of another world, a world where darkness was alive, pulsating with life and energy. I found myself drawn to it, spending hours in darkened rooms, conversing with the shadows, learning their secrets. They showed me things, visions of power, of knowledge beyond human comprehension. I was intoxicated, consumed by the allure of the darkness. But with each secret revealed, the shadows demanded a piece of me in return. My reflection grew dimmer, my presence fading. I realized too late that the shadows were not friends but predators, feeding on my very essence. Now I am but a whisper, a shadow of my former self. The darkness has claimed me, and I exist only in its embrace, a prisoner of my own curiosity. Heed my warning. The shadows are not to be trusted. They are alive, and they are always hungry. Story 5. The Echoing Silence. The town of Hollow's End was known for its silence. No birds sang, no wind rustled the leaves. It was as if the world had been muted, leaving only the echo of silence in its wake. I moved there for the peace, seeking solace from the chaos of life. But the silence was suffocating, pressing in on me from all sides. It wasn't long before I realized there was something more to it, something malevolent lurking beneath the quiet. The townsfolk were friendly enough, but their smiles never reached their eyes. They moved through life in quiet resignation, as if afraid to break the silence that enveloped the town. I began to hear things at night. A low hum, a distant whisper carried on the wind. I followed it, drawn to the edge of the town where the forest loomed dark and foreboding. There, I discovered the source of the silence, a creature, ancient and terrible, that fed on sound, leaving only emptiness in its wake. It sensed me, turning its gaze upon me with a hunger that sent chills down my spine. I tried to run, but there was no escape from its grasp. The silence followed me, consuming everything I held dear. I write this now, hoping to break the silence, to warn others of the creature that dwells in Hollow's End. Beware the echoing silence, for it is alive and ever watchful, waiting to claim its next victim. Do you have a story you would like to share? Send me all your creepy, mind-bending stories. Subscribe for more alternate reality horror stories. Stay curious, my friends.